Okay, in this next section, we are going to graph inequalities. So there's a couple different ways to graph inequalities. So let's just go over those different ways. So the first one is you can graph using standard form, meaning you're going to take each of these equations and you are going to set them equal to your last term here. So we're going to find your intercepts. All right, so what I'm going to do here for x minus y is greater than 7 is I would plug a 0 in for, let's say we plug a 0 in for x. Okay, there I'm getting a y-intercept of, divide by -1 here, y is less than -7. So I'm going to get a y-intercept of -7 because I have an x of 0. So 0, -7 for a point there. So let's see where that is. So about right here on the graph. Sometimes it doesn't like it when I draw circles. All right, and then x minus y, so let's say x minus 0 is greater than 7. There you're going to get x is greater than 7. So then you're going to get an x-intercept of 7, 0. So here we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that point's going to be right there. And then what we want to do is we're going to draw a line for that. All right, so let's try and get this line nice and even here. There we go. Let me see if I can get this just a little bit more even. Sometimes this program does not like it. There we go. Okay. So now what we want to do is after we've graphed it, we want to find which side of this graph will make the equation true. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pick a test point, okay, on either side of the graph. So the easiest test point to pick is going to be this point right here, 0, 0. Okay, if you plug 0, 0 into this graph or this equation, you're going to get this statement here, 0 minus 0 is greater than 7. So you get 0 is greater than 7, which is not true, okay, which means this side of the equation makes this side of the graph makes the equation false, which means that this side, the opposite side, makes it true. So what you're going to do is you are going to shade the graph in that region. So here for shading, let's grab a highlighter. You're going to shade underneath this graph. All right, and then the last thing that you want to do is you want to pay attention to the type of line that you draw. So I probably should have done that first when we did the graphing, but I wanted to get the line drawn. So when you draw this line, you want to look at the inequality symbol and what type it is. So for this, if you have a greater than or a less than, you're going to actually use a dotted line to graph. If you have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, you will use a solid line to graph. Actually, that one is backwards here, so. All right, so this should actually be a dotted line, so I'm just going to go ahead and see if we have a dotted line on here, which it does not look like I do. So I'm just going to draw over this line and just make it a dotted line. So, Okay, so this line should be a dotted line when you go through and do that. All right, and then let's look at number 7. So we're going to do this a different way than we did number 6. So it's really up to you which way you want to graph it, but this is one way, using your intercepts. This way, we're going to put the equation in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so here you have, let's see, 2x plus 6y is greater than or equal to 12. So we'll subtract a 2x from both sides. That'll give us a 6y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 12. And then we'll divide by 6. And that'll give us y is greater than or equal to, let's see, negative 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, then we'll graph that using those points. So let me just get a thicker line here. So you've got plus 2 as your y-intercept. And then from there, you're going to go down 1. So down 1 over 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to connect those using a line. So since this is greater than or equal to, we are going to use a solid line here. Oh, let me make that actually thinner. Okay, and then you want to pick your shading. Now, when you are in y equals mx plus b form, you can actually do your shading based off of the direction of the inequality. So since this is a greater than or equal to, you would shade above. So all I would need to do here is pick my highlighter and shade above the line. If it were a less than, I would shade below. But we can only do that if we're in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so if you're going to do it using the intercepts, you still want to have a test point. And you could also use a test point in this way as well. If you look at that real quick, if you plug 0, 0 in, you are going to get 0 is greater than 12, which is untrue, so you would shade on the opposite side. Let's take a look at number 8. You have x is greater than negative 8. So when I am thinking about that problem, okay, you are missing a y, which means that this is an x, so negative 8, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the x-axis. There's your negative 8. Okay, you have to go through that point, which means you're going to be doing a vertical line here. It is greater than, so you're going to have a dotted vertical line. Okay, and this is just going to be the direction of the inequality. So it is greater than, which means it's going to go towards numbers greater than negative 8, so to the right. So there you would want to shade on the right side of this graph. And I believe on a lot of your homework problems, if you're graphing this in my lab math, you can just pick up the paint bucket and click on either side. Okay, then let's look at this final problem. Just the opposite of the x equals problem. You have y is less than or equal to 5. So find 5 on the y-axis. And then you're going to go through that point. So you're going through 5, horizontal line, and it's going to be a solid line here. So if I get my solid line, we are going to go right here. And then it is less than or equal to 5, so you would shade below this line. And that is it for graphing inequalities.